All right, today we're going to tackle a massive challenge that so many entrepreneurs face: how to finally stop competing on price and start charging what you're really worth. So let's get right into it. So let me ask you something right off the bat, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Is your business actually growing, or are you just getting busier? Because believe me, there is a huge difference, and figuring out which one you are is the very first step. And this right here, this is a super important distinction. On the left, you've got growing. This is kind of like running on a hamster wheel, right? Your revenue goes up, sure, but your costs go up right along with it. You're working way harder, but you're not really getting any further ahead. Now on the right, that's scaling. That's the dream. That's when your revenue shoots for the moon while your costs pretty much stay the same. That is where real wealth is built, and that's what we're going to unpack. But look, before we can even think about scaling, we've got to talk about the biggest thing holding most people back. It's something called the commodity trap. And trust me, it's a race to the bottom that you do not want to win. So what does that even mean? Well, it's simple. If a potential client can look at what you offer and easily compare it to 5 other people based on price, then you're a commodity. You're no different than a generic bottle of water on a supermarket shelf. And when you're just another bottle on the shelf, what happens? You feel like the only way to compete is on price. Okay, but here's where it gets really counterintuitive, and this slide just lays it all out perfectly. Lowering your price, it actually makes things worse for everybody. Think about it. When you lower your price, your client isn't as invested. The perceived value of your work just tanks. And get this, their results actually get worse. And on top of that, they become more demanding, and your profits just evaporate. But look at the other side. When you increase the price, everything flips. Their investment goes up, the perceived value skyrockets, and they get better results. It's wild, but it's true. The clients who pay the most are often the best clients. They pay attention. I love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. There is absolutely no prize for being the second cheapest option. None. It's a game you can't win unless you're a massive corporation like Walmart. So if you can't be ridiculously cheaper, you have to play a completely different game. So, if we're not going to play the price game, what game do we play? We play a totally different one, and it's called the Grand Slam offer. This is your secret weapon. This is your escape route from that commodity trap. The whole idea behind a Grand Slam offer is to make yourself incomparable. You're not trying to be the best option in a crowded market. You're trying to create a market where you are the only option. You're creating a category of one. So when someone looks at your offer, the only alternative is to get nothing. And that, right there, takes price completely off the table. And this right here from Alex Hormozi, this is pretty much the guiding light for the whole concept. Your goal is to stack so much value into your offer to make it so unbelievably good, so perfectly aligned with what your customer wants, that for them to say no would just feel, well, stupid. Okay, that sounds great, right? But how do you actually build an offer like that? Well, it's not some kind of magic. There's actually a formula for it. It's called the value equation, and it is the blueprint we're going to use. All right, here it is. This is the whole shebang. On the top, you've got the client's dream outcome multiplied by how likely they believe they are to achieve it. On the bottom, you have how long it's going to take, the time delay, multiplied by the effort and sacrifice they have to put in. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is simple. Crank up the top half of that equation and shrink the bottom half down to almost nothing. All right, let's start with the top, dream outcome. You have to maximize this. Think about it. Nobody wants to buy a gym membership. What they want is to lose the weight, to feel confident at the beach. You don't sell the drills and the spreadsheets. You sell the championship, the feeling of victory. You have to sell the vacation, not the plane ticket. But it's not enough to just promise a dream outcome. You have to make people believe that it's actually achievable for them. This is all about getting rid of their fear and their risk. You do this with rock-solid guarantees, with tons of social proof, with case studies, with testimonials. You just keep stacking the proof until their skepticism has no choice but to just melt away. Okay, now for the bottom half of the equation. These are the things we want to crush, to minimize as much as possible. And time delay? Man, this is a huge one. We live in an on-demand world. People will always pay a premium for speed. If you can get them to their dream outcome in 3 weeks while everyone else takes 3 months, you've just created an insane amount of value. And last, but definitely not least, we have effort and sacrifice. Honestly, this might be the most overlooked but most powerful part of the whole equation. How easy can you make this for your client? How much work can you take off their plate? Done for you is always going to be worth more than do it yourself. Removing friction is a superpower when it comes to creating value. Okay, so we've got the theory down. We understand the value equation. But what does this actually look like when you put it into practice? Well, one of the most effective ways to structure all this is with a 3-tier pricing model. It's a super smart way to capture different parts of the market. It's actually pretty brilliant. Let me break it down for you. First up, you have the entry. This is your low-cost, low-risk way for someone to just try you out. Think of it like a paid audit or a diagnostic. It gets good clients in the door and weeds out the time wasters. Then, in the middle, you've got the core. This is it. This is your big, high-ticket, grand slam offer we've been talking about, the full transformation. And finally, there's the continuity. This is a recurring revenue offer for maintenance or ongoing support. It creates predictable cash flow and keeps your clients with you for the long haul. All right, let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture. Because look, having a killer offer is non-negotiable. But if you really want to scale, you have to make a fundamental shift in how you think, from being the person doing all the work to being the person who builds the machine that does the work. And this chart, this just lays out the difference so clearly. On one side, you've got the person. That's you, the expert, the hero, and the bottleneck. You're selling your time. You basically own a really stressful job with a few helpers. But on the other side, you've got the machine. Now that is an asset. It's a system that creates equity, something that has value outside of you. It's a real business, and it's built to scale. So the million-dollar question is, how do you build the machine? Well, it really comes down to these 4 steps. First, you have to productize your services. Turn that custom, bespoke work into a standardized, repeatable process. Second, you build systems, SOPs, templates, checklists for absolutely everything. Third, you create a pipeline for talent, a system to recruit and train great people to run your systems. And then, the final and maybe hardest step, you have to remove yourself, the founder, from the day-to-day delivery. And I want you to really let this quote sink in for a second. Read it again. If every single problem, every complex decision ends up on your desk, you haven't built a business. You've just built yourself a job, except now you have payroll. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one final question to really think about. Take a hard look at your business, at your daily tasks, at your vision for the future. Are you building a job that completely relies on you? Or are you building a real asset that can grow and thrive even without you? Because how you answer that question, well, that's going to define your entire journey as an entrepreneur.